Hey there, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to do a shop my stash. I wanted to match a very specific bead that's in my earrings today, and so I decided to pull colors from all over my collection. I used 4 different palettes today to do this eyeshadow look and see how close I could get to the random marbly sorts of colors that are swirling throughout that bead. So if you're interested in seeing that kind of thing, don't go anywhere. Let's talk about my inspiration for today's Shop My Stash. If you see these earrings that I'm wearing, these were handmade, and I'm going to try to show you guys. We're looking at this bead right here. Hopefully you'll be able to see that bead enough on camera. It is kind of an interesting combination of colors. There's some reddish brown there, but then also little bits of purple. And then it has kind of a silvery bluish sort of tinge as well. I have no idea what it is. But a friend of mine made these earrings for me ages ago, and I thought that I wanted to try to pull the colors out of this bead in my eyeshadow look. So I'm going to shop my stash a little bit. I'll tell you my plan, and then everything that I'm using is linked down below in the description box. Let's talk about the plan. I've got the earthy 42 pan palette here from Beauty Bay. I'm going to play in these colors, probably mainly raw, which by the way is also in the Wilderness palette if you happen to have that one and you wanted to try to follow along. Does anybody follow along with Shop My Stashes? Because they're pretty random, especially if you're basing them off of a bead. I also have the Jewels and Gem palette from Udenzai. My plan is to start with this shade here, what's it called? Elation, and use it to go into the reddish color from Earthy. Then I'm going to deepen with purple. So I'll be deepening with this one here because I do want to bring some of the purple blue tinge, but also keep it greeny brown. Random, I know. So I'll deepen it with this purple. And then I was thinking for shimmers, I wanted to try to keep it more of a silver green lean rather than bring in blue. I'm not totally sure. I was planning on using, sorry, back into Jewels and Gem for a second. I was planning on using this one here, Gorgeousness, because this is more of a silvery green kind of tone. But then I may also tap a little bit of this one, Cheerfulness, along with that somehow. And then for an inner corner highlight, maybe I'll use this. This is like a pale blue white iridescent. That's my plan. I do have a palette pull-in. If you don't know what palette pull-in is, it's a project where I'm just working through the palettes in my collection and I have to use the next shade in consecutive order. It's just a little mini bingo challenge I've given myself. I don't always do it, but if I can incorporate it into the look within reason, I try to. Sometimes I have a very distinct plan and I just ignore the palette pull-in. This is my palette pull-in. This is Milk River from the Sydney Grace X The Fancy Face Tropicolor palette. I'm planning on using it in the outer lower lash line to work with the red tones. That is my plan. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I'm optimistic and quite curious. So let's zoom in and get going. So first I'm taking Elation from Jewels and Gem, and I'm going to put this in my inner crease area. This is a nice mid-toned, what is it? I actually don't know what this color would be described as. It's not a mauve or a lavender. It's not lilac. It's not that purple. It's also not very pink. It looks sort of like a soft pink with a bit of bricky red added into it. For some reason, I am blanking on what it might be called, so whatever it is, it's pretty. Just because that's a little bit lighter, I'm going to take the next shade, Ecstasy, in the palette. That's this one here. I'm just going to work the edges a little bit here to soften. Soften and soften and soften. You don't have to bring in Ecstasy. You could just buff off your brush and work the edges. I mean, the Udenzai shadows are so nice that they're very easy to work. Okay, so now into Earthy, the raw shade, which again, I said is also part of the raw shade is in the Wilderness palette. Do you guys still have the Wilderness palette? It's been a while since I used it. I have always enjoyed that palette. I did an entire week of uploads using it. I have a whole Beauty Bay playlist on my channel with lots of looks from the Wilderness palette outside of that week of. I think it's a great palette, honestly. I had considered getting rid of it, but I'm not totally decided on that. I don't know. I feel like sometimes it gets to the point where you feel like maybe you've done all you can with a palette, or other things just excite you more because you have used that other palette a good deal. So it kind of feels like it's time to move on, time to play with something else because we all have limited time and limited eyes. I had considered passing along Wilderness, but it's been such a favorite for so long. I do enjoy it. I haven't convinced myself yet. Okay, those are looking nice together, but now I want to deepen it. I want to deepen the outer corner. So back into Jewels and Gem. I got a smaller and slightly denser, but still kind of medium blending brush, and I'm picking up Intoxication. And I will use that to deepen this outer V area. I don't want to totally bury the red, but I mean, I do want it to be peeking through. It is not necessarily the focal point in today's look, because I think that the bead upon which I'm basing this color story, the bead doesn't have one really standout color. It's kind of more marbled in that the colors are just swirling all the way through. There's nothing that really jumps out. I think it pulls more green because it's paired with other green things. But if you look at the bead by itself, it doesn't really have a dominant color. Maybe like gray. Okay, so that's actually looking quite nice. Just out of curiosity, let's put the bead up next to it. Are we kind of on task here? You can really get inspiration from anything at all. I do think that there's a smidge more orange in the bead. And so actually the Milk River shade for my palette pull-in will be perfect. Come to think of it. Didn't really plan that out, but I think that'll be fine. So I'm gonna take my finger and pick up Gorgeousness from Jewels and Gem, and I'll lay this starting in the center. Let's put it on most of the lid space. Although it's actually laying down kind of dry, so maybe I'll pick it up with a brush and spray it. Okay, that's a bit better. I like to use the Udanzai shimmers, usually with a brush. Whereas a lot of the other brands I have, I prefer to use my fingers, but it depends. Not trying to go for a cut crease here, I'm just turning my brush sideways and taking advantage of any dry sparkles that may be there. So, what are we needing now? I think a hint of green. I'll take Cheerfulness from Stone and Rock, lay that right on top. I think just the center area. I still want to keep this more neutral silver leaning color over here. And I think we're pretty close. Let me do the lower lash line. And then, what should I do on the lower lash line? I want to use the palette pull-in because that's actually going to give me that little hint of a warmer orange tone in the bead, because it's going to be a bit of a smoother transfer from one color into orange. Let's use the original Elation, the mid-tone pinkish, burgundy-ish, brickish, whatever color we decided it was. Put that here. And then palette number 4 for today's look is my palette pull-in Milk River. We'll go here. This is so much fun. I think the last time I did a Shop My Stash was a specific color combination. I think it was mint and yellow. I think. But I haven't done one like this in a while where I was explicitly inspired by a specific item. Usually my earrings. I haven't done this in a while. I do think it's pretty good, actually. It can be hard to tell with that coppery wire wrapped around the bead, but I've got, now that I laid down Milk River, I've got that warmish reddish brown. I've got the purples. And I think maybe there's not quite enough blue. It's such a light silvery kind of blue, which was my thought with the shimmer over there. Like this blue is the closest I would get, one of these, but still neither of them's quite right. So I think I'm just gonna finish it as it is. I will take my final plan of using this, which is a more light bluish kind of shimmer. I'll use that on my inner corner. So I'm gonna load up quite a fine blending brush and spray it. I mean, it's beautiful. It's so striking. There is a hint of blue. I do see just a tiny bit of blue there. It's not quite the color of the blue in the earring. It's not Doesn't have that quality, but it does have a little reflect, just a bit. And there was nothing in here that was quite pastel enough. Like here's a bit of white, but a little bit more of that sparkle on top. I mean, it does look pretty. It really does look pretty. I think I am missing that like pastel navy-ish, but there's nothing else that I can use within these palettes, and I certainly have enough palettes today, and there's also nowhere else to put it. So I'm gonna leave the look as it is. I'll be right back to show you how it looks with everything done. Okay, here's the look. It's all done. Let me tell you what I did to finish off. In my waterline, I used white, and then I threw it across the room. I do have mascara on, and then on my lips, I'm wearing two things from ColourPop. This is the glowing lip in the shade Mid-Century, and then I topped it with the ColourPop lip oil, and the color is Hay. That's it for my lips. And then on my face, I have a little bit of bronzer from Physicians Formula, and as a highlighter, I used the Stone and Rock palette. I used this one here. Remember, this was my inner corner highlight, so I put it as a face highlighter too. I don't know if you can see that, but I put on pretty little when it comes to face products, and I like it that way. It may not transfer on camera, but I do actually have those things on. And I think that is everything. So be sure to check the description box if you have any questions. I do try to link all of my information, or at least mention it down there if you're curious. And I think that the eye look is quite pretty. Honestly, it's a little bit more purpley in the inner corner than I expected it to be. Now that could be because of the transition shade I used, that mid-tone bricky purple, whatever it was, especially on my skin tones, was pulling a bit more purple than I expected. And then I paired it with the red, but then I deepened the outer corner with purple, which kind of tied them all together. So I like it. I do like it. I think that if I were to do it again, maybe I should use more of an orangey, a slightly more warm leaning transition color in the inner area, because that would have kept the integrity of some of the warmer tones. Again, I'm trying to match this bead, so it's very specific colors I was going for. I think the eye look is beautiful. I just didn't quite hit each of the colors as accurately as I could have. I think the warm orange, maybe I could have used the Milk River shade up here as well. That would have warmed it up a bit, and combined with the red would have made the whole crease a bit warmer, even after having deepened it with purple. But also the other color that I'm kind of missing is that it's almost like a navy tinted pastel, you know, but then it has a lot of blue and silver kind of colors in it. It's a bit of a trick, and I really enjoy, honestly, I really enjoy the challenge. I think the earrings are a lot of fun, but the eyeshadow look, to play with the earrings, to play with the shirt, it's just a whole ensemble, and it makes my look more interesting. Plus it was fun, plus I love to play with color, plus I love to hold a paintbrush. I'm in a happy spot right now. So I thank you so much for being here. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Do tell me in the comments what you think. I always enjoy hearing your feedback and chatting with you down there. I hope you'll consider liking and subscribing if you haven't done so before and you do like this content. Perhaps you want to see more. Typically I upload multiple videos every week, and I hope to see you guys in my next one. Bye!